Faith in the Fresh Vibe podcast. This is the final part of a 3-part series in season 6, which is a season on deconstruction. My guest is Drew Brown, singer-songwriter. Find him in the show notes. This one I didn't split up into 2, so it's a longer 1-hour episode that concludes our conversation. We ask, what do you keep, what do you trash, and what do you claim when it comes to deconstruction? Enjoy. We include here Drew Brown on this contest of revealing all the pieces of deconstruction. We entered this exercise in an attempt to figure out what does deconstruction look like, but pull in the voices from the margins.
Yeah.
This is the space. I don't know, it wasn't always like this, but now that it's starting to get hot again, you've heard us complain about this. It's dominated by white voices. Some folks have done great work, but when it comes to the work of deconstruction, the argument is white folks can only take you so far. Not a knock to my white homies. Not a knock. There's 3 pieces of deconstruction, 3 pieces of dealing with white supremacy, and you're either one of the 3. I don't know if this is a hard rule. You can either dismantle, you can either decolonize out of, or you can reclaim. And white folks, all y'all can do is dismantle, because you can't escape the clutches of whiteness. And no matter how hard you try, whiteness will always afford you privilege. So you can't decolonize out of something that you are always afforded.
Right.
But you can use that power to dismantle. So I suppose Black and other people of color can dismantle too, when you have a little piece, little glimpse of power. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, baby.
We can decolonize away from the powers and principalities that are white supremacy and whiteness. But then you need something to go back to. Right. That could be a reclamation of ethnic identity, must include that. But also, I think, because where we are situated on this land, it is a reclamation or a return, a decolonizing unto indigenous perspectives, indigenous ways of being, and indigenous spirituality, which the third one is just that reclamation. Indigenous peoples do not decolonize out of anything. They reclaim what once was or what is. Where are we going to go in this last episode here? We're going to shimmy and shake our way through the question of deconstruction. We're going to do a rapid fire where we're going to throw out a couple of 3. What we keep, what we trash, and what we reclaim.
I love that.
And we'll just toss it out, and then you'll hit it, give us all the gems, and then I'll try to follow up and all the answers. People will be writing books, having speeches about what we... No, they won't.
Yeah, they will.
Maybe. How many Dove Awards do you think they give out in the spoken word continent?
All
in
of
the
them.
pod?
All of them. Every
doesn't
single
matter,
one.
We'll make one.
Yeah, that's right.
Best rock album. What? I remember that story. Hey, look it up. Yeah. Season 2 or 3? I can't remember now. Look it up. The earlier episodes with Drew Brown from a couple seasons ago. He tells that story.
Oh, man.
Greasy. Man. Are you still waiting for that check? Man.
I am, baby. Come on now.
We also want to talk about what does healthy and unhealthy deconstruction look like. I remember my first church plant. For some reason, maybe it was me, for some reason we attracted a lot of people who were still dealing with their hurts of old church experiences, and they brought their hurts into my church plant.
Yes.
And it was just a place where with a bunch of hurt people. which is very different than where it is now with people actively deconstructing. They're in a better place, asking tough questions, but they're not kind of spewing all their unhealth onto everyone.
Oh, that's so good.
I don't know if that's very pastoral of me to say. Whatever.
No, it's good, man.
You know what I'm talking about? You know that kind of
Yeah,
ethos
totally, man.
in community?
Yes.
Like, have you been in spaces like that?
Yes. Yeah. I've seen that before, where there's a group of people who are, deconstructing and going through, sort of working through their church trauma.
Wouldn't even name it as deconstruction.
Right. Yeah, that's right. They're just going through their trauma, and as they go through their trauma, they actually traumatize other people. So it just keeps on. It's like.
So there are healthy and unhealthy ways to roll through deconstruction. I think.
Right.
I think that we need to engage these questions because ultimately, when we pull back the layers, when we consider why we deconstruct, I think it has to do with belonging. In that something is preventing us from true belonging,
Right.
and something is detracting from us living out the fullness of who God has made us to be. And when we figure out that there's something incongruent or obstacles in the way of whatever journey we're on in life, that alerts us that something ain't right. And the alert or the catalyst, I think, is the realization we don't belong. Some peace. Could be the whole thing, but some peace. Sure. We don't belong here. Have you had that sense before, crisscrossing communities, like when it came down, if you did the introspective work, that you realize, oh, like this is a question of fundamental belonging for me?
Yeah. I, unfortunately, have always kind of felt like an outsider in church spaces and church contexts. And pretty much every church space I've ever been in, with the exception of maybe one, and all through my life, I've always felt like an outsider, always felt like I've been on the fringes, even though like there was no reason to label myself that way externally, generally speaking, except for, white church, I guess. But, and it wasn't just because, I'm an artist and I'm so special, I'm so different. It wasn't like that. Because I was surrounded by other artists who were better than me, or worse than me, whatever the case might be, so it wasn't that. It was something there was something internally that I was like, I don't fit in, or I don't agree, or I don't, and not that I had reasons to. Like, I remember being a kid and thinking like, mission trips just don't feel right to me. It feels like an invasion of some kind. Like, but I didn't have the language or the verbiage or even the reasoning really to think that way. But for some reason, it felt weird and
that's
so
the word,
right. And so I was always kind of like, no, I'm good. No, I'm good. I'm not gonna partake in that, or I'm not gonna raise funds for that. I just felt weird to me. So I was always feeling like an outsider, especially obviously when I went through my deconstructing and tried to sort of still go to church in that space, even more so because I was the heathen, or that's the way I labeled myself. I'm the heathen. I believe in justice. Oh my gosh!
Don't use that word.
I'm sorry.
Justice.
I'm sorry.
Next, it's going to be critical race theory.
No!
Heaven forbid. Lord have mercy. Do you know how many people critical race theory kills every year?
Too many to count, brother. Too many to count.
Dumb.
That was good. That was good.
Was this predominantly an issue of race?
In some places, yeah, but overall, generally, no. It was definitely deeper than that. Like even in Black church, I felt like I didn't quite fit in, and I mean that there was a bunch of different reasons there because I was too white for Black church because I listened to rock music at that point in time. That was sort of not the norm. Where now you find like many people of color listen to everything. I mean, I have friends who listen to the classical jazz, whatever.
Yeah.
But back in the day, if you were a teenager, you weren't listening to Pearl Jam.
Like
you're listening, you know what I mean?
In the 90s, you couldn't listen to. Well, when were you a teenager? In the 90s.
Yeah,
In the 90s.
Yeah,
you couldn't listen to Pearl Jam.
No. It was like Jodeci and R. Kelly.
112.
And yeah. And that was it,
Casey
right?
and JoJo.
Right, exactly.
All the hits, but still, Pearl Jam is was a bigger deal too back then.
Yeah,
Still
that's right.
is, I guess.
Yeah.
Where's
and I listened to where is 112? What's going on? And I listened to everything. I was a big jazz head in high school. I loved rock, loved hip hop, especially the new hip hop that was coming up. Yeah, Arrested Development and just things that had a bit more headspace, like Public Enemy. Loved that stuff. But also loved, my rock. Also loved my jazz. Also, so I was sort of like, not that I wasn't cool, but I was kind of like, you do what? You listen to what? Oh, that's weird. But even that wasn't as much of a priority to me because it's music. Who freaking cares?
Yeah, but it was still a factor in othering you.
Right. Right. So you had all these other things, and then you have the fact that I'm a huge music nerd. That what do you listen to that for? White boy music. We created rock and roll, man. Sorry.
No, get it out.
It's like therapy today.
It's been therapy every podcast. Well, the free kind, so not very good therapy. So a lot of it has to do with, you're laughing like you rely on all the not very good kind. So many of us do, hey? It's like social media has become not very good therapy.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Oh my God.
Ain't that the truth? Isn't that a country song? Anyway. So a lot of it had to do, like I harp on race and ethnicity quite a bit, but when I hear your story on belonging, this is a lot to do with ideas and artistic expression and theological opinions.
Yeah,
these are things that were separating you.
Yeah, which is weird. It's strange. It's imagine being in a Pentecostal, charismatic service. Yeah.
Low.
Alas.
Charismatic.
And everybody's raising their hands and speaking in tongues, and I'm kind of like, oh, cool, I'm good here. Hands down on my side, not doing anything. Just
weird is the word. Did you feel weird?
Totally. Yeah. Especially if I'm the person leading the music at that time and everybody's going crazy. I'm like, do. And it's not because I didn't believe, not because I wasn't, I was still caught up in the moment. Yeah. But my version of being caught up would look totally different than everybody else.
We've talked about the theological things in the last episode about what othered or what puts you on the outskirts of community. Let's stick with that weird piece though, because I think that's something that those who are embarking or in or don't even know yet, but you come in to deconstruction, it's the weird moment that was that initial catalyst, that alert to something ain't right.
Right.
Usually weird is attributed to racist things for me as I look back. Well, the examples of not like overt to sometimes overt. But these are moments where it was like I can't make sense of this entirely. I didn't have all the language of why this was weird, but it's just weird.
It's just weird.
I'm sure just like every woman in the church can be like smashing up against patriarchy.
Oh man.
Should use different language. Confronting patriarchy.
I like smash, but yeah, keep going.
That something has left you feeling weird.
Right.
Weird and less than.
Oh gosh. There it is.
If you're embarking on this journey of deconstruction and you're wondering, do I fit anymore? One of the things I want to yell out to people who have confronted the things that have attempted to make them less whole and decided the only option is to walk away from it all, is to yell out, you don't have to do that. Yeah. Well, maybe you do. Maybe you do have to escape, but there are options. I want to scream out, right. There are options here. There's something worth reclaiming, because if we talk about people who have been pushed to the margins because of something you believe, because you like the rock and or roll, that Christianity encounters you in that place, because Jesus is a incarnate being who was that marginalized being. Right. That body was marginalized. On the margins. That Christian faith for the first 300 years till it married in with Rome, that's a marginalized community. Colonized, under the thumb of the emperor, all those things. We have more in common on the margins with Christianity than everything that comes out of the center or through whatever inherited cultural power place the church tries to speak from today. Any church, man.
Yeah, that's it.
I want to give you 3 pieces here. And now we've entered the rapid fire.
Oh, jeez, I'm ready. Okay, let me, hold on. Let me just change my position here and get ready.
I want to ask you for, in the place that you're at now,
yeah,
when it comes to deconstruction, okay, here are the 3 categories.
Okay.
Interacting, we're going to primarily interact with Christianity. I know
sure.
deconstruction can be into other institutions. But when it comes to Christianity and the work of deconstruction, Drew Brown,
yes,
what would you give up? So what would you trash? What would you keep? And then what would you reclaim? You know, like iterate, make new. Drew Brown, what would you... Do you want to start with trash? What would you trash?
Everything.
Okay.
No, we can't do that.
I'm going to put the canned laughter there as well.
Yeah. That's right. I think, I mean, this is the lame answer, but I have to give it. I'll give everything that's not Christ-like. So I'll get rid of patriarchy and racism and sexism, and the list goes down. I know it's kind of like the duh, obviously, Drew. But that would be the first thing to go. Again, that's obvious. The second thing to go, which is a little less obvious, is to have the one person being the lead.
Okay, leadership. Yeah. So that the idea that, I guess for me, like I'm, and this comes from my own story. I'm heavily triggered by like the mega pastor or the CEO,
who's kind of right. Yeah. That kind of, you know what I mean? Like
leadership summit.
I mean, right. And I have no problem with like, you know, someone needs to sort of like, you know, like call like the shot when it needs to happen. Sure. Someone needs to be a shot caller. Great. But for me, I love when churches can lead in community somehow. Where it's not just the main guy, but it's the main guy with a bunch of other people around that person. Yeah, I mean, all accountability might fall on him, sure, or her, whatever, but they're not leading alone. I think, and there's tons of churches who are doing that kind of thing where it's like a shared leadership model. That's great. That feels healthier to me. I could be totally wrong. I could be totally wrong, but that feels healthier.
You could get unhealthy versions of that, but flattening that leadership.
Totally. Yes. Yeah. I think so.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Going back to your first one, what did you say? Christ-like? Anything that's not Christ-like.
Yeah.
Who's Christ?
So Christ to me would be the embodiment of hope, love, justice, peace, goodness, mercy, grace, all these traits and attributes that we want to kind of be. We want to own ourselves. We kind of want to like We want to wear that shirt. We want to we want to wear that. We want to be that. At least I do. That's what keeps me around in Christian circles. Otherwise than that, I'm out. Like, why bother? But like that for me, and being someone who not represents, but embodies that, that's what keeps me around. Because I want to be that person. I'm not that person. And so when I say get rid of everything, I don't mean get rid of me, but like, let's be super intentional as flawed people to kind of get rid of that, as, to sort of, if we see that fire, douse it out. I think that needs, I would love to see a church that does that, because I haven't seen physically with my own eyes a church that is intentionally trying to kill the beast of self and of money and greed. I should say, not money, greed, and also like race and patriarchy and all that stuff. The stuff that's just like, oh my God, racism in church is insane. Yeah.
So someone would shoot back, I think, maybe, and they would say that, why does that have to be a Christian community?
It does, because it doesn't. But you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation that we are talking about the Christian context.
Worth reclaiming.
Sorry.
Let me go off the. No, you're right. Let me come from the side and ask. Okay. Have you experienced that level? I'm genuinely curious, that level of community in pursuit of the things that you spoke of: hope, love, justice, caring for the poor, and so forth, like that, outside of Christian community?
Oh, definitely, yes. My atheist friends are the most Christian friends I know. I'm not even kidding, by the way.
That, I think, speaks to how much the church doesn't have the monopoly on these things. So then what makes Christianity unique?
I think it's some of its practices and rituals, I think, are very unique. Verbiage wise anyway. Prayer isn't unique to Christianity alone. Singing together isn't necessarily unique to what we do, or to what other practices do. But there is something about like the gathering, the communion piece, that I think, I could be wrong, but I think those things feel unique to Christianity.
And you sort of alluded to this before. Those are your convictions.
Yeah.
I like the Jesus piece. I think that's the unique piece. What else is there?
What else is there, dude? Yeah.
Rapid fire. What are you going to trash? So you said everything. You said leadership. That's a good one. That's a very short list, unless you tried to encompass everything in the Halloween bag there.
Well, it's rapid fire. We got to keep moving.
Any other trash?
About 90% of the music.
So there's, hang on, there's 10% we're saving then?
Yeah. Okay. Totally.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, maybe it's less. Maybe it's only 3 or 4% when you actually think about the entire discography of the Christian musical art. So good point. But let's just say, just for the sake of this conversation, it's a 90-10 kind of.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Keep it coming.
All right.
Is your list exhausted?
I'm sure there's more, but my brain is not functioning as quick as it normally does.
You hit up like the main primary elements of like 90% of contemporary churches and what they do on Sunday and how they are situated.
There we go.
Okay. Switching it up. What would you keep?
What would I keep? Again, I really, really connect to the ritual and practice of communion. I love that so much. I really do. And I didn't when I was a kid. I didn't quite get it. Because I think when I was a kid, it was so focused on Christ's death. Right? And that's all it was. And now it's so much bigger and brighter now. It's more than just the death of a good person. Now it's like there's a celebration involved. There is a sense of, I don't want to say recommitting. That sounds really evangelical, but like, sense of kind of like I used to work in an Anglican church, and I remember I was talking to this amazing woman, and we're talking communion, and there's one particular Sunday we didn't take communion together. And she simply said, I miss doing communion. And I was like, oh, like what? What's your reasoning? She's like, it feels like a reset. Like I can come to Jesus and say, okay, I was can I swear?
I think so.
Okay. I was a crappy person this week. And you know what? I need to make amends in a lot of places. But now I can come to you and do like a really cool spiritual reset with you, Jesus. I'm sorry. You're awesome. Help me to do better. And I was like, what? That's awesome. What a cool practice. Right? It's putting the confession and communion together and saying, hey, you know what? Man, I'm a fool. Oops. All right, so I'm going to take these elements and hopefully as I celebrate your amazing gift to us, you can help me be a better human. Make me better, more like you, Jesus. I'm like, yeah, and so I've adopted that myself. Like, yeah, man, I suck. Help me, Jesus. I don't, Anyway.
You don't suck.
So, yeah, I shouldn't have said that, but you know what I'm saying. So I love communion. I love, you're going to laugh at this, but I love singing together.
I wouldn't laugh at that.
Like, that is, even when I do like my bar gigs and stuff, I always try to find the songs, not that people just would dance to, and that's important, trust me. And not just songs that people want to drink to, because that's also important.
Trust me.
But I want them to sing along. I want them to get on their chairs and just yell the songs out, because that's where the magic happens.
Magic.
And you know what I mean? I feel the same way when people are actually engaged in song together, celebrating together through song. That, I mean, in the church I'm at, that doesn't happen at all. But I mean, when it does happen in other spaces and places,
magic.
Oh man, it's magic.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
No, I get that. I mean, as much as someone who has deconstructed all the way to the other end of not doing any music at all.
Yeah.
The power of everybody singing together, drowning each other out is so rare.
Yes.
Maybe because we're just not Pentecostal enough, but it's so rare. But when it happens, and it's magic.
That's right.
Okay, communion you keep.
Yeah.
We rolling. What else you keep?
I can't believe I'm saying this. There was a long time where I didn't believe that church should happen at all. I was like, yeah, screw it. Let's just do something else.
Service, you mean?
I'm sorry. Correct.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Service. Yeah. Now, especially after the pandemic, I guess we're still in it officially, but you know what I mean? Like after lockdown, I'm like, wow, yeah, there is something important and special about gathering. And I can't believe I'm saying this. So I think for me, the gathering piece is huge. I don't think it needs to happen every week.
Yeah, there you go. And there's the deconstruction part. Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? I don't think I do that. But I think there is something special about saying, hey, crew, we're getting together this time. We're going to do something and it's going to be great. Let's just hang out.
Yeah. And I suck at that. Are you more of an introvert or extrovert?
I'm a huge introvert, dude.
Huge introvert.
Yeah.
So you were living both your best life, but also at the same time, even introverts during this pandemic chaos yearn for connection. We all yearn for connection.
We do.
That's a good keep, man. You got anything else? Any other keeps?
In terms of rapid fire, that's all I can think of right now.
Bang, bang. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Reclaim. So things that were kind of good, but worth iterating, reinventing, bringing back to life. Ooh. What are the pieces that you might reclaim?
Okay, rapid fire.
We don't throw it all away, right? So.
Yeah. I think there was, oh man, I'm going to be that guy. There was a time when the church was actually like the hub for creative arts. And we lost that. We lost that completely. In my opinion, we've lost that. Some people would say, no, we're so creative. Look at our music. I think.
I don't know. Someone could say that with a straight face. So we use the contemporary contemporary church in the West.
I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you for that. Yes. There's some amazing, beautiful things happening everywhere around the world, except for the state. No, I'm kidding.
Well, no, that's design too. It's like Protestants, why they just build, or evangelicals in particular, why you just build a blank box in the suburbs or in a farmer's field, and me throw up a wooden cross. Maybe that's kind of like the Baptist feels, and that's it. That's your design. Nothing beautiful.
Right.
Box.
No, box.
You might as well have service in a gigantic fridge box.
That's right. That's exactly right. I long for that to be true of us, that we can be people who not just are creative, but actually can leverage our creativity for connection or reconnection, for spiritual growth, for change. I long for that.
New expressions that other people can connect into. You think everyone just connects in by sitting on their butts to listen to someone talk for 30, 45 minutes?
This is it, man.
Yeah, I'm out.
No, thank you. The other thing is, the church used to be the hub for creativity, sure. But also it used to be the hub for the community itself.
Parish,
It used to be do you know what I'm saying?
Some places are kind of like that still.
Yes, you're right.
The odd inner city parish.
Right.
The odd one.
I love.
Yeah,
right? Man, imagine every church being like that, being the neighborhood parish. My God. I think we could do so much more good stuff if we, who are in leadership, can actually move our churches into that kind of mindset. Oh man, just imagine that.
Which is a shift.
So we're not just here. It is. It's a huge shift
from Grandma's church. But Grandma's church was like that in a way, but it operated in a manner, in a posture of a church that inherited cultural privilege and say in the day-to-day lives of the people in the neighborhood, versus a church just postured as a beacon because of the work that they're doing with community for community. That's very different.
Come on, baby. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, I think, again, off the top of my head, just thinking out loud, those are the two main things that I would love to sort of reclaim.
Okay, you do me.
All right. Well, let's start from the bottom end. Let's start with reclaim.
What do we reclaim? Beautiful tales. I think our reclamation has to do, and I will echo you, and I'm going to be that guy. A reclamation of the early church, and I hear that so many times from church leaders or theologians or so forth. But to reclaim the ethic of the Jesus way, so the Matthew 5 Beatitudes, Sermon on the Mount, there's a clear ethic, Yes. To reclaim what that marginalized church, and not in terms of white churches today might think that they're being marginalized because they have lost their inherited privilege. So that's being, no. You just haven't iterated. You've been pushed to the margins, but you're not being marginalized. We're talking about a marginalized church, the people being marginalized, a Christ, a Jesus who has been marginalized, filtered through the lens of black Jesus. Not so much that was Jesus black, but the experience of the black body being oppressed systemically, being colonized. It's the church that rises up in that context and reclaims and subverts the world around it, that is standing as the critique to empire rather than in bed with it. I want to reclaim that church. I do so poorly and pursue so poorly for sure, but there is so much power in the identity, the DNA of that early church, that it is worth reclaiming. Within that, I think, is the Jesus piece to reclaim a Jesus who stood with the marginalized, for the poor, the widows, the lame, the lepers, the one who extended the table by automatically invited all the prestigious people that come on down, but at the same table, the first invites were given to those who were on the margins as well. This is a radical faith that we're supposed to be engaged in, and we need to reclaim the radical nature of it. So that's the idea of reclaim. I think there's also a reclamation somewhere in, this isn't directly tied, although could be wrapped some way. Something that we mentioned at the top, which is a reclamation of a process of decolonization, but indigenous spirituality.
Oh my gosh!
And a call into a reclamation of land-based teachings.
Oh yeah.
To try to give us something more than our supremely individualistic and capitalistic social context and formation.
Yes. Oh, dude. Yes. All the yes.
I think that that's two.
Yeah, that's great. Oh man, that's really good. Okay. Keep. What would you keep?
I think I'm like you in that the church still needs to gather. And I was a guy who was like, no, dude, can't do online.
Oh, God.
And, of course, COVID and a little bit before that switched that.
Yeah.
But I do believe, just like you, I do believe that meeting in person, the touch, the feel, the smells, the high fives, the hugs.
Yes.
Incarnate presence matters as well. We do need to re-envision what gathering looks like today. But we need to gather, and I wouldn't give that up. I agree. Not every week. We go every other week, like in 8 months of the year. Maybe we go every other week, but often we've done once a month.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right amount is, especially if you're living life together. That's different. But to intentionally bring community together from different places and spaces, do that, just not as frequently as we're used to.
Right.
Keep the traditions that were given up. And so keep old traditions, hang on to them, but also hold them with an open hand. So example of keep would be teachings of New Testament. Keep the Bible, for example, but also...
Well, no, I'm kidding.
But filter that through the context of that early church DNA, the marginalized church. That can get you into trouble, of course.
Yep.
If the community affirms stuff that isn't, like justice is a bad word. Keep the movement right now, so it's like an iteration of the movement because it's happened before, but bringing marginalized voices to the center to lead. So I see a bit of that. So keep that attempt, but we also don't really see great examples of that. All that I would keep. I think we need to also keep, here's my last one, keep your identity, but also keep the whole. So we don't lose our identity in church community or in Christ. We're not called all to be the same. Rather, in our uniqueness and in our gifts, those pieces matter and they deserve to be kept in the context of community. So that we have all these different parts. It's tricky because we haven't been formed as community to figure out what it means to be good community when there are differences in our midst, when there's diversity. But we're not called into sameness. We're called into unity, oneness in our diversity. So that's what we need to keep, our own identity, but in the identity of community as well.
That's good. All right. Trash, baby.
Trash.
Trash it!
Throw it away. You're no good to us. I think we need to trash patriarchy. I say that tricky. It's tricky because it's like I struggle with trying to figure out how to embody this characteristic in my own church community and to raise up the women who like what is the right way to, not the right way, but to raise up leaders who are not there yet into that kind of space. Trash patriarchy in terms of male headship in church community, but not only that, the formation of the legacy of patriarchy, which shapes and forms the church and how it functions. Trash institutionalism, I'm okay with keeping it because I'm not a guy who's like, oh, you know, it's all evil, whatever. I am outside of it. I don't need it.
Yeah.
I may come back into it. Who knows? but you don't need the affirmation of dad's approval in order to go do good things,
right,
or be in a community. Trash the notion that big equals legit.
Oh my gosh.
That
yes.
your church with only 12 people doesn't count because it's 12 and that's not a church. Trash that idea. I think the reclamation and the trashing part for the deconstructed church moving forward is being okay with small, and just it's going to be small forever. It's going to be 20 people at most, and y'all going to venture together. You might leave because you hate 19 of them or you don't like them, but then you come back because you realize, that would be a good keep good people. Not that you trash bad people, but everything's rooted in people.
Yeah.
Keep even if there are hard moments in community, the ones who will venture through the hard parts together, keep. Okay, back to trash. Trash. What was that? Institution. Yep. Trash. The notion of big is legit. Trash the old formation that says that there's a clergy laity divide, that if you have degrees behind you, your voice matters more. So trash that idea. Bring more people into the center with their experiences. Bring the artists, like how many degrees does that artist have? What was it? But they're ministering through their art, through their way that they see the world. Trash that idea. Trash white supremacy, which virtually every church tradition outside of Orthodox, East Orthodox traditions, Ethiopian Orthodox, traditional Black institutional church traditions, some reclaimed liberation churches in South America, trash white supremacy in churches, and that is a lot of trash to deal with. So trash the notion of white Eurocentric male theology that has shaped and formed all of us to think and believe what we believe.
Hallelujah.
I don't know what's left after that. That's why we're deconstructing, but trash those Now, here's the thing. You can reclaim parts of that, however, because there's still goodness in the midst. There's still good, like everyone wants to quote a Walter Brueggemann, or everyone's down with Eugene Peterson or N.T. Wright. Like those are people who have formed me for sure. Sure. But trash the notion that the white male gaze is right, white is right. Yeah. And everyone else can figure out themselves in their own ethnicities. Like, let the Chinese church say, you Chinese church, and the black church, that's black church. But over here, we church, which is really, it's like you white church and white is right. So trash that idea. I go on. That's a lot of.
That was good, baby.
Well, thank you, good sir.
Yeah.
Let's loop around and end our journey here in belonging, interrogating all things as the process of deconstructing, figuring out what to keep, trash, and reclaim.
Yeah.
We've talked about unhealthy ways, and we can still draw in some unhealthy ways, but what does whole health and belonging look like?
Jeez,
we pine for it. What does healthy deconstruction look like? Which ultimately I think leads to let's give the listeners a picture of what healthy community, which is sort of the end game, looks like too. Like looks the practices of these things. It's one thing to just talk about the theory, the knowledge of deconstruction, but what does it tangibly look like in practice, in community, in the healthy way? Healthy deconstruction and also the result of healthy community. Glimpse us, because I don't know if there's full answers there.
Healthy deconstruction. I think there is something about. So one thing that I did that was helpful for me was when I left the church, I didn't divorce myself from the church. So I still had a lot of friends who were Christians who wanted the same things that I wanted in terms of justice, in terms of smashing the patriarchy. But they were like full on Christ followers, and went to church and led churches and did all the things.
Okay.
And so having people like that, because they're not going to be like, oh, I can't believe you left your faith. they're going to be like, that's cool, man. That's awesome. How can I support you? 'Cause they get it, right? they understand the sort of the concept of what is happening. And I think it's okay to go to church or to not go to church. I did both. And I remember when I first lost my faith, I was like, and I was like, but I missed the practice of going to church. And so unfortunately I went to like the local mega church for like a little while. And I was like, ooh, yeah, no, I'm out. I stayed out for a while. And I needed that. I needed to sort of just be there. And I was there with no judgment, no, nothing. Just kind of like, I'm going to be here. Even though I don't agree with the songs that we're singing. I don't agree with the teaching right now. I don't agree with anything. I hate being here. And it was good to be with people, but also it was brutal. And I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. For my own health. I think it's okay to do that. I think it's okay either way. It's okay to ignore it all. Totally fine. Because when I did, it was great and wonderful. I loved having my Sundays back. Hallelujah. Praise Jesus. Having my Sundays.
And your
glorious.
Saturday nights.
Oh my gosh. It was great. It was great for me, great for the family. It was amazing. But I think above all else, there is something about deconstructing that people, there's an assumption like that, well, one day you're going to come back around. And I think in theory, that's the whole point, right?
Oh, that's
that's the idea. But you don't have to.
Well,
you don't have to.
Do you mean
that's the idea? Like you want to
come back around to what? The old thing?
No, not the old thing. To some sort of new version of the old thing.
So you're not coming around to anything.
Right. And so, but that's what some people like. They think that's what deconstructing is. It's kind of like,
that's a good
no,
word.
I'm going to break this down to build it back up or to build something up in its place.
I've heard this. That's
Right?
Someone just shared this idea that they went to the church they've been part of for 20 years. They talked to the lead pastor and they're like, oh, you know what? Yeah, you need to go. You need to go and figure yourself out with the lens of, didn't say it like this, but you'll be back someday.
And no, that's not what deconstruction is. Or, sorry, at least in my opinion, I don't think it has anything to do with coming back to church, building a new outlook on Christianity. No, man. Because it's so much more than just, usually when you're deconstructing, in my opinion, it's not just about the faith. It's 1,000 layers beyond that, right? It's like everything. It's purity culture. It's right.
Yeah. We didn't even talk about purity culture.
Right?
Was that in that trash list? What do you mean it was in your keep list?
What? Wow.
Yeah, we forgot about that one.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that one. But yeah, so for me, I'm like, no.
Bunch of men.
The idea is not to come back. The idea is just kind of work through this stuff until you feel like you are ready to, I don't know, to investigate something else.
Or even you are in the process of deconstructing, but in safe places where you are venturing with like minds.
That'd be amazing.
And you may not leave to a new thing. You may be reclaiming with friends an old thing. Right. I'm making this up as we go.
No,
I'm trying to process this.
That for me is like, that would be the perfect way to deconstruct. Do you know what I mean? Like that would be, for me personally, that would be the goal.
Deconstruct with friends. Don't go at it alone.
Oh my God.
Hey, put that on a sweater.
Oh my gosh.
Deconstruct with friends.
With friends.
Let me write that down.
When I did it, there was no one going, like later down in my process, near the end of my process, there was tons. But like when I started, there was no one going through it. And I was like, oh, I'm doing this alone. And that sucked. That was bad for my mental health too. It was it was a horrible experience.
Don't travel alone on that. Jeez. Man, that's hard, man.
Yeah.
Do you think that you can do a process of deconstruction? Is it healthy then to stay in the community that you've been formed, perhaps grew up in? Is it even possible to do so?
I don't know if it's possible. I mean, that would be, imagine a community that would hold you with so much grace and love that they would say, we got you. Whatever you're going through, whatever you got, if you got to fight us, if you need to like rip us apart, we are here for you fully, completely, holistically for your spiritual. Like, could you imagine that?
I mean,
that would never happen.
Yeah, I was going to I'm trying and I'm not thinking of any examples.
Yeah. That would never happen. And that's the only way that I can see someone being able to, in a healthy manner, stay at the church they grew up in. Oh my God.
I don't know if you could, because eventually you would be like that would eventually, and this is why we can't think of any examples. Yeah. Eventually, let's say if it was a matter of white supremacy, racism, it sounds too much like an all lives matter, two sides kind of way. Oh, eventually push will come to shove and you're going to have to go.
Yeah.
But then, and when that happens, you alluded to this, admit that part of the process of deconstructing is walking into a pile of grief and loss.
Right.
This is why you should go at it with friends. But also, I think that opens the door that a healthy way of deconstructing is that not only confronting hurt, but finding help, and so therapy around how to handle the grief and the loss that's attributed with this work.
Right.
And now it's like, well, where am I going to find the money for that? But it's like, it's a real thing, just as a way to acknowledge that there's the grief and the loss that's attributed with deconstruction. You might need help.
Yeah.
Deconstruction's scary. Bring a friend.
Oh my gosh.
It's like the dark.
Dude. Oh, it's so painful.
Well, it's painful, yeah.
All right. There was another part to that. There was another part to this whole thing. I forgot what it was now. Oh, what does it look like? Community look like? What is?
Yeah. Okay, so let's let me preface that then. Healthy and unhealthy ways of deconstructing. You can walk around being hurt and not dealing with those things. Now linger. Give us a glimpse. And full disclosure, no community embodies this perfectly or wholly. What does healthy community look like? That deconstructed community, like after the fact, if we're not turning all the way around and coming back into the old thing, what does the reclaimed thing look like?
I think there would need to be some kind of, like, they are doing the work of justice and love and mercy within their context, and also nationally if they can, if there's a way to do that. So they are they're trying to figure out the racism piece and the sexism piece. They're trying to figure out where their power lies and how they can use it wisely for the community. They are open to people who are actually not even open, but they are like they want people who are questioning and who are doubting. I find that people who have those doubts and those questions can really, really help frame or reframe or continue to reframe a community and their practices really, really well. Because they're not coming from a biased or a jaded perspective. They're like, this, I don't know about this. I don't know. This shouldn't work. This is unhealthy. They have a really clear perspective. Usually, I think a community that is not afraid of honoring the past, but also is not afraid of honoring like the present and the future in terms of like how we do things. Like again, I'm all about, I love communion. I love that practice. I love that ritual. There's also other rituals that we can probably either create for ourselves or, you know what I mean? I think that's healthy. I think that's also good for people who are deconstructing, because a lot of rituals and a lot of practices are so triggering. And so offering up and creating some new ones, some new spiritual practices and rituals could be really healing. Because it's not tied to the old ways.
You'll probably need them pragmatically because
of
what's tied to, and some worth reclaiming, but
of course, sure, right.
what would be? Do you have like an idea of what that practice might look like? I mean, you've suggested in communion. Are there other ones that you have engaged in, found life-giving?
In my previous church, I would actually take scripture and chop it up and create like responsive prayers out of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I started doing that again, and I find and I would kind of creatively rewrite them a little bit, just a little bit
for sure.
Yeah,
I do that.
Yeah, right. I think that has been really, really, just talking to people, that's been really, really healthy, especially those who are kind of like, they don't want to read another frickin' psalm again, but actually like
the frickin' psalms.
You know what I mean? But I think kind of like changing it up in not that I'm rewriting the scripture, but I am rewriting the scripture, and so reframing it in a way that's grounded in the now, in our context, in our neighborhood, in what's happening in our society, while still keeping the truth of like this creator God who is present and wants to see like justice roll down. Wants to see that. Wants to see us become people of mercy and of grace. Yeah, things like that I think would be cool. And no music at all.
I mean, especially online, like I can't imagine how any church does music online right now. I know many are trying. It's just a stilted.
It sucks.
Yeah, there. You got it.
It just sucks, man. And for the record, I'm saying that as someone who's been on both sides.
Yeah.
Doing the music, but also like hearing it.
Yeah.
And acting and participating in it. I'm like, oh God. Nah, just delete that part. Just move on.
The things of healthy deconstruction that I would like to see is the community that affirms such, and again, to use these words, we've used a couple of them: Christ-centered, biblical community, reclaim the early church, which we're serious about, but in a certain way. And another one I think is radical inclusion. When we talk about radical inclusion, we wanted the embodied effect of that. And I've come out of I wasn't really in it, but I certainly was credentialed with them, evangelical-ish denomination that one of their MOs is everyone gets to play. It's a notion of radical inclusion, but they brought down a hardline stance on same-sex marriage. So I left. I gave up my credentials in protest to that, because that's not an embodiment of radical inclusion, and it's only so long until the problem of the LGBTQ community becomes a problem of the racialized community.
Right.
When am I next kind of thing. So it's a solidarity piece there. But to say that I think healthy deconstructed community has dealt with some of these fundamental pieces, and one of them is diversity, radical inclusion.
Yes.
Across racialized lines, which I think, and I'm biased, but I think the data points that that's one of the hardest places of diversity to embody in community. We virtually have no examples. The church should be one, but it's not. The church is it's segregated, racially segregated, still is today. Read Michael O. Emerson on that.
That's right.
Radical inclusion, I think, is one. And then another healthy piece is I don't know if it would be really weird to be like, oh, we're the church that's deconstructing. Come to First Church of Deconstruction. That would be kind of weird. So I think that there are churches, Cypher Church being one, who are embodying a new reclaimed way. Not in like everything, but who are making these attempts at the new thing. And as someone who is deconstructing, if you are in that type of community, then you're not in a deconstructing community. You're in that community that will support you through your deconstruction because it has gone through that before.
That's yes. Right?
I don't have the full answer. I don't have the book on that one of what that specifically looks like, other than it can be many things, reflecting many voices. and some of the core pieces of that Christian ethic we were talking about. But I would be slow to be like, and I'm going to contradict myself here, that my small group that is meeting for coffee and starting the journey of deconstructing by reading the book by so-and-so, I think you can call that the deconstructed community or whatever, but I'm not sure if that is an example of the holistic church community on path to reclaim something new. There's something missing there, and I know I'm leaving this now on a cliffhanger because I want people to think through, like, well, what does this actually look like in our place in space? And I could be totally wrong there. Maybe that, and I know many people would argue that is totally an expression of church. We can call it such. But find a place that is embodying some of these practices, or all of them. That'd be great.
Yeah.
And venture with them. Make the attempt.
Yeah.
They're out there.
That's right. They are.
Yeah.
They totally are, dude.
They're out there. That's the hope piece that I hope folks can hear. Yeah. And with the pandemic, the odd thing that has happened is that it's given a lot of folks who would be fragmented otherwise a chance to find kindred spirits through Twitter, Instagram, whatever.
Yeah.
Now the trick will be to how to find that community in proximity.
Yeah, no doubt.
Trail off for us, Drew Brown. Wrap us into all that we have discovered and and shimmy and shaked our way through in this journey of deconstructing. I really value your voice, brother. Thanks so much for being here. Is there anything you want to add to this journey? I hope a lot of folks listen and get their mom to listen and grandmas and
no, I got nothing. But I will say this, actually. The whole, like, you're not alone in this, even though you feel alone, is key. There's time, especially now, thankfully, like, there's so many resources and groups and festivals and
Instagram accounts.
Like, everybody is on this, and there's so many people who are teaching incredible things and wonderful things and sharing great ideas and thoughts. Dive into that. Please do not go on this journey. I mean, the fact that you're listening right now probably means that you're already on that journey and that you're not doing this alone. But for some chance, you are. Yeah, there's so many opportunities to connect with people across this vast universe of deconstruction. So definitely do that.
And look for those voices on the margins.
Yep, specifically,
they're coming up. They're here.
Yes,
they're leading. Go give them your money. Give us our money. Yeah.
I'd
take the monies.
I can use some.
What is I'll be shouting it out in the show notes and so forth. Do we have another iteration of Advent instrumentals coming this winter?
This winter, I'm right now working on a series of Advent like prayers and instrumentals. Yeah. So
part 3
probably
is that?
Yeah.
Of Hymns of an Architect.
Yeah. So hopefully, if I can get it done, it needs to be done in 2 weeks. So if I don't get it done, then it'll be for next year. But yeah, that is the goal. It'll be prayers and specifically around justice.
These homies need to go and check it out. There's Drew Brown on Drew Brown Music on Instagram. You'll be there on Twitter, Patreon. Is that still rolling?
Yeah, surprisingly, yeah.
Patreon's still rolling. That's arduous. I commend you, friend. You are on Spotify, of course, and you can buy all of these albums. Bandcamp?
You got it, baby.